too many of us are not living our dreams because we are living out our fears. I remember in high school baseball where I got the starting opportunity in ninth grade, or actually it was 10th grade. And I got the opportunity to be batting first and in the starting lineup of the varsity team. And I had so much fear of failure, whether it was dropping a ball or striking out or, going up and embarrassing myself, that it held me back from showing up as the highest version of myself. When it came to practice, I was one of the best players on the field, and that's why I got the starting opportunity. When it came to game time, I was terrified. And that thought of failing was the exact thing that held me back from succeeding. We get so overly focused on what could happen, of the failure, that we don't recognize that it is the one thing that's holding us back from really moving forward. And I've seen this in my coaching business as well. When I started my coaching business, there was something that really held so many people back. And it didn't hold me back. I didn't let it hold me back because I realized that it was something that so many people were struggling with. And it was, you have to reach out to find clients. And so when you reach out to find clients, so many people were afraid that they were going to get rejected by people. And that's something that just happens in life, right? There's going to be rejections. There's going to be times where people say no, and that's perfectly okay. But what struggled for a lot of people was that they got so overly focused on that idea that it stopped them from taking action and reaching out and never really starting to work with people. And I say this because we don't realize it, but every day people are focused on the life that they don't want and not focusing on the life that they do want. And when you get so overly focused on the worst case scenario, the worst possible outcome, your body and your mind are going to reject the exact actions that will allow you to succeed in what you want to succeed in. And it's like you're attracting a negative life because you're so focused on it instead of focusing on the exact life that you do want. And it's really easy to do this when we haven't experienced the life that we do want. We haven't experienced the what it's like to create that freedom, to create that life that we truly would love to, experience. And so I want to break down this cycle because I think that if we're not clear on why it happens to begin with, then we can't break the cycle ever in our lives. And this is why so many people get stuck in a life that they're okay with and not a life that they truly love. And so I want to break down this fear of failure to begin with because there's a hell of a lot of reasons. First and foremost, we have to understand this cognitive appraisal, which is really important because this is something that we've learned in the school system, for example. If you go to school and you take a test and you fail the test, you start to see yourself as the failure, right? And this is why I'm really against the school system. But if you start to see yourself as the failure, you're going to see failure as something that you should avoid rather than something that you should seek. And in life, especially in entrepreneurship or something that's out of the ordinary, there is going to be a lot of failure. And you want to see that failure as something to seek and something to actually learn from, because that's exactly what it is, a learning opportunity, right? Like I think in life, we see failure as one road and we see success as another road. But really what success is just further along that road of failure. You're going to be on that path of failure and you're going to fail a hell of a lot of times. And if you just stay on that path, you will end up seeing success instead of seeing it as two opposing experiences, failure and success. It's not two different roads, but it's one single road. And the people that succeed are the ones that simply just don't stop and take enough action to actually get there. But the hurdle is that when we have a fear of failure, we don't take action. And so what we have to understand first and foremost is that our idea of what failure is has come from our experiences in life. And if you went to the school system, it's going to be something that you are likely going to avoid. And we have to understand that our ego is going to be the thing that's going to try to hold us back. Our ego wants to keep us safe. It wants to keep us in this place where we're the highest version of ourselves. We're the only person that matters in the world. We're the one that doesn't fail, that we're not the failure, and we want to stay safe. But as soon as we recognize that failure is a learning opportunity, we forget about other people's opinions or what we think other people are going to think of us. We think of, what could actually come from taking action on this thing. Failure won't be something that you avoid, but it'll be something that you actually seek. So not only do we have these beliefs about what failure is based on our experiences and what we've been taught in life, but we also have this idea of social comparison theory. And I don't know if you've heard about this, but I think this is really important to take in, especially if you're in a path, again, entrepreneurship or something that's out of the ordinary. If you see yourself in a position where maybe you're unsettled with, but you see someone else that's at the same, maybe they're the same age, maybe they're in the same job, they've done it for as long as you, maybe they've done it for a shorter amount of time, and they're further along, you're going to compare yourself like no other. And it's just something as humans that we do, we compare ourselves. And it's something that's really terrifying in our mind and in our body. And it terrifies us from taking action because we are so focused on where someone else is rather than what's the actions that are actually going to allow us to get there ourselves. And so if we're so focused on not failing and being seen as a success in the world, we're going to hold ourselves back. But if we're so focused on learning and just being open to learning and learning and learning, and that being the emphasis of every day is, I just want to learn. I just want to learn and get a little bit better today. Well, then we're going to start to seek those failures. We're going to start to seek the opportunities that maybe we're not ready for. But most things in life, you're not going to be ready for. You're not going to have the steps mapped out. But that's exactly it, is that's where you're going to learn. But if you always hold yourself back, well, you're never going to leave this unsettling life that you're really not okay with. And if you think, again, I always talk about this, but you have to think of how you're going to feel at the end of your life. If you are going to regret not doing this thing, and the only thing that's holding you back is your fear of failure, you have to reframe what failure is in your mind, or you will be unsettled at the end of your life, just as you are now, but to much extreme extent. And we're only given one, so you have to be really intentional about what you want to create in your life. So put this into perspective. What is the detriment of fear? What is going to happen if you never take action on the thing that you want to take action on? Think of your 85-year-old self, and what would they tell you right now? Would they tell you to take action on the thing, or would they say, nah, just stay comfortable in where you are? Acquiesce to the life that you're given instead of creating a life that you deserve to create for yourself. Right? Obviously, they're going to say, go after the thing that you're afraid to go after. There's never going to be a time when you're fully ready. There's never going to be a time when you have all the steps mapped out, but that is okay. And that's just how life is. The whole purpose of life is to enjoy the passage of time, not to get to some endpoint and see yourself as a success every aspect of every single day. But it's to understand that you already are enough as you are, and that no failure is going to decrease your amount of self-worth. But we see that in life. And again, it goes back to the school system. It goes back to how we were told of what failure is, and our beliefs about failure, our beliefs about the world. We have to unlearn so much of the things that hold us back, because if we don't, we are going to go through life settling for a life that we're okay with, instead of creating a life, again, that we deserve to create for ourselves. I had a podcast with Jennifer Cohen, a few weeks ago, probably a few months ago at this point, and she is a best-selling author. She's done a bunch of stuff in her life, but the point I want to make here is that she speaks about how it wasn't her smarts, it wasn't her intelligence, it wasn't anything that she had that really made her stand out or made her create the life that she wanted, but it was her boldness. It was her ability to be okay with failure, her seek that failure, and to put herself out there, knowing that she doesn't care about what other people think of her, because that's going to be the thing that helps her show up better in life and really succeed and excel when other people are too afraid to raise their hand. She's going to be the first one that raises her hand. And I say this so much, is you have to be willing to look like a fool first in order to succeed. And if you're not willing to look like a fool, if you're not open to let go of your ego and push down the parts of yourself that are trying to hold you back, well, then you're always going to stay comfortable in where you are, instead of creating something that you deserve to create. And lastly, I really want to break down why this is so important. If you think of failure, we all see failure as final. I mean, maybe we don't recognize it, but we really see it as something that is so detrimental to our life. But I want to put this into perspective for you. Let's say you leave your job, and let's say this is the most terrifying thing for you in your life, is to leave your job and to step into something that you really want to create for yourself. We think that that failure is going to be terrifying. We think that that failure is going to be the end of us. And that's exactly how it plays out in our life, is when we think that it's going to be so terrible that we never take action to begin with. But let's play this out. If you were to leave your job and you go to start a business, and maybe you lose all of the money, maybe it fails terribly, the worst possible outcome is going and ending up right where you are right now. It's just ending up where you're at right now. But maybe other people's opinions of you are a little bit different. And maybe you're so focused on other people's opinions of, man, I'm going to look like a failure. I'm going to look like I'm stupid. I'm not good enough. And it's going to be so painful to go back to my job and, acquiesce to a life that I'm given. But at least you know that you gave it a shot. And at the end of your life, wouldn't you have rather done something and failed at it than to get to the end of your life and been, what if? Instead of, I'm glad I did. And that's the whole way that you have to think about things. If you're questioning doing something and you're holding yourself back from doing it, think, am I going to regret not doing this thing? Instead of thinking, am I going to regret doing this thing? Because we're going to regret a lot of the things that we didn't do instead of the things that we did do and failed at. And so you have to get really comfortable with failure. You have to recognize that it's a part of the process, not the opposite of progress. It is something that helps you show up better for yourself the next time. And as soon as you start to get comfortable with that failure and you change the way that you see failure in your mind, you see it as a learning opportunity and not something to avoid. You recognize that your past experiences don't determine your future experiences. And just because you have failed in the past doesn't mean you're going to fail in the future. Then And only then will you actually start to take action on, a life that you deserve to create. So I want you to think about the past experiences that carved out your idea of what failure is in your life. Because once you start to realize that that's why you start to fear failure and that's why you avoid failure, well, then you start to realize that failure really isn't that bad. And it's going to be the thing that's going to actually allow you to excel in whatever you want to excel in. But those that succeed in life are the ones that are open to failure and really seek failure. They put themselves in positions to fail because that's when you're going to learn, right? You're not going to learn from winning and winning and winning and winning. And that's just not how life works. And so I hope this podcast was helpful. There wasn't really anything that was tangible in this episode, but I want it to be just a reframe in your mind, because what my coach would say is, instead of seeing it as I'm calling you out in this video, I'm calling you forward, because I see something in you, whether you don't see it in yourself. There is no one else that can bring what you bring to the world. And you do a disservice by not bringing your unique gifts into the world. And that's going to involve a hell of a lot of failure along that journey. You just have to get comfortable with failing so that you can actually end up creating a life that you deserve to create for yourself. And as soon as you're able to detach your self-worth and failure, you will start to create that life. I hope this podcast was helpful. And if it was, leave a comment, share this on your story on Instagram, @me@JamesBrackenIV, and I will see you in the next episode.